Have you ever pondered what secrets hide beneath the brightest smiles you encounter daily? I hadn't, until my carefully constructed world shattered. I'm Mason Hargrove, a 42-year-old structural engineer and founder of Hargrove Solutions, based in Dallas, Texas. I established my company from scratch, specializing in designing resilient bridges and hospitals that withstand both time and elements. People describe me as reliable, someone who understands both architectural integrity and human complexity. My life appeared equally stable, with my wife Celeste running her high-end furniture boutique downtown, and our 15-year-old daughter Juniper quietly creating art in her corner of our Plano residence, situated 20 miles north of the city. We seemed to have everything perfect, or that's what I believed. Those Sunday mornings were my foundation. The aroma of Celeste's pancakes would fill our home, while Juniper's cheerful giggles blended with the crackling sound of bacon cooking. Gathered around our table, bathed in morning sunlight, I'd feel incredibly blessed. Celeste, with her piercing green eyes and natural charisma, orchestrated our lives flawlessly. She'd organize client dinners, securing contracts over carefully selected wines and elegant conversation. Juniper inherited my analytical mind and my mother Beatrice's composed demeanor. Her architectural sketches rivaled those of seasoned professionals. Everything appeared indestructible, like a foundation I'd carefully crafted. That solid base began with Beatrice, my unwavering support. At 67, she'd retired after transforming countless South Texas properties into profitable ventures through pure determination. She resided in Austin, 200 miles away, with my father, Walter, age 70, a retired accountant more comfortable with spreadsheets than conversations. I owed my success to Beatrice. Her financial support launched my business when traditional lenders refused. Our bond was unshakable. Walter, however, maintained his distance, existing in Beatrice's shadow. I accepted this as his nature, quiet and self-contained. Then Beatrice's health deteriorated severely. Chronic lung disease struck mercilessly, confining her to an Austin hospital. I drive 3 hours whenever possible, maintaining vigil by her bedside, watching her characteristic resilience. Celeste began avoiding these visits, citing the store's peak season demands. I accepted her excuses without question. Walter would be present too, but briefly, spending more time pacing corridors, clutching his phone, his eyes restless as if anticipating something. I dismissed it as anxiety. After all, grief manifests in unexpected ways. One afternoon, Beatrice motioned Juniper closer. I glimpsed the moment, my mother's fragile fingers clasping my daughter's hand, her voice too faint for me to discern. Juniper listened intently, her expression grave, then departed silently. Later that evening in Plano, passing our bedroom, I noticed Celeste bent over her mobile device. She hadn't detected my presence. Her fingers danced across the screen, a subtle smirk playing on her face. When I entered, she hastily concealed the phone, mumbling about delivery delays. I accepted her explanation, but something unsettling lingered in my mind, like a hairline fracture in concrete. Beatrice's death affected me more profoundly than I'd anticipated. We gathered in a modest stone chapel on Austin's outskirts, encircled by ancient live oaks and a congregation of semi-familiar faces. The pews overflowed with real estate moguls and former business associates, their subdued conversations echoing admiration for the woman who transformed South Texas's landscape. I stood near the altar, accepting condolences, shaking hands, feeling her loss settle deep within me. My mother's legacy extended beyond property development. She shaped who I became, and now she was gone. Celeste arrived behind schedule. She entered through a side entrance 20 minutes after the service began, her heels resonating against the wooden flooring. Her attire, a form-fitting black dress, seemed more appropriate for an evening soiree than a memorial service. Her entrance drew attention and sparked murmurs. As she took her seat, I caught her gaze detached, almost disinterested. She absently adjusted her dark hair and checked her phone, typing silently. I convinced myself this was merely her way of processing grief. Walter remained at the chapel's rear, adjusting his necktie repeatedly, evading my presence. He offered brief thanks to well-wishers, but his eyes constantly scanned the doorways, like someone anticipating unwelcome news. Juniper stayed by my side. She sat close, her sketchbook beneath her arm, occasionally touching my hand in an unusual display of support. Her hazel eyes carried something weighty, an unidentifiable darkness. She'd remained mostly silent since that final hospital visit, since whatever secret Beatrice had whispered to her. As I leaned forward to straighten my mother's photograph on the altar, her stern smile eternally captured, I felt Juniper stiffen beside me. Something wasn't right. I just couldn't identify what. The service concluded, and attendees poured into the churchyard for refreshments and conversation. I navigated through the gathering, performing my role as the bereaved son, when Celeste caught my attention once more. She was positioned beside a cedar tree, her phone against her ear, facing away from the crowd. Though her voice remained hushed, I noticed her shoulders tense with each vibration. I drifted nearer, maintaining a casual demeanor while pretending to engage with an elderly investor. She abruptly ended her call, slipping the device into her handbag, then turned with a forced smile. "Just work-related," she explained when I approached, dismissing it with a wave. I acknowledged her words, but unease churned within me. At the car later, I noticed her purse resting on the passenger seat. She'd stepped inside to retrieve a shawl, leaving it exposed and open. Her phone lay there, screen inactive but powered on, without password protection. She never used one, always claiming she trusted me too completely to keep secrets. My hand wavered above the device, my heart pounding against my chest. I shouldn't have invaded her privacy. Yet I did. A single touch illuminated the screen, revealing a message from Walter. "Beatrice is gone. We're clear now." My breath halted. I scrolled upward, hands shaking, discovering months of correspondence. Secret rendezvous in Houston hotels. Schemes to divert funds from my mother's estate. A message that froze my blood. "Once Mason's out of the way, it's ours." Reality shifted beneath me. My spouse and my father, conspiring in secret, their messages cutting like razors. I transferred the phone to my pocket, chest constricted, thoughts whirling. Juniper settled into the back seat, observing me with those perceptive eyes. She remained silent, but I sensed it. She possessed knowledge too, and whatever Beatrice had confided in her would soon alter everything. The journey from Austin to Plano became an indistinct haze. Juniper gazed out the window, clutching her sketchbook, while I maintained a death grip on the wheel, Celeste's phone weighing heavily in my jacket. Darkness had descended when we reached our driveway, the house unlit save for a dim light in the upstairs corridor. The funeral guests had departed, leaving only darkness and chirping cicadas. I directed Juniper to her room, assuring her we'd discuss matters soon. She nodded, pausing at the staircase, her gaze searching mine before she vanished. Celeste discarded her heels in the foyer, draping her shawl over a chair with practiced nonchalance. She drifted toward the kitchen as if this were any ordinary evening. I trailed behind, the weight of those messages burning in my consciousness. The atmosphere felt dense, electric with unspoken accusations. She reached for wine, her back turned to me, a soft melody on her lips. I placed her phone on the counter, screen illuminated, Walter's incriminating message still visible. Her hand quivered slightly as she halted mid-drink, betraying her composure. She pivoted gradually, wine glass clutched firmly, her mouth curving into an unfamiliar, calculating smile. I demanded answers, direct and unadorned. Her smile deepened as she set down her glass with precise deliberation. She declared her freedom from obligation, citing years of performing the role of devoted wife. Venom laced her words as she revealed everything. A 5-year affair with Walter, clandestine meetings in hotels, whispered conspiracies during midnight conversations. They'd anticipated Beatrice's death, scheming to seize her wealth. And I feature in their plans too. She inched closer, eyes gleaming with malice, describing their strategy to paint me as mentally unstable, unfit for inheritance. Walter's medical contact would provide the necessary documentation, she added clinically. My fingers curled into tight fists, fingernails piercing skin. I confronted her with evidence of every deception, every betrayal. Her laughter rang out, harsh and empty against the kitchen's surfaces. She taunted me about timing, claiming their plan was already irreversible. The estate would be theirs, leaving me with nothing but my engineering projects. I advanced, voice barely controlled, commanding her to cease. She recoiled momentarily before recovering her icy demeanor. She spat that Walter deserved better than Beatrice's treatment, and she warranted more than our marriage. Approaching footsteps disrupted the confrontation. Juniper materialized in the doorframe, composed despite her pallor. She extended her hand, revealing a USB drive. She explained that Beatrice had entrusted it to her in the hospital, anticipating this moment. Her voice wavered as she revealed Beatrice's suspicions and protective measures. Celeste lunged suddenly, sending her wine glass shattering, crimson liquid spreading across the floor. I reacted swiftly, positioning myself between her and my daughter. Juniper gripped the drive tighter, retreating slightly, her expression determined despite her fear. I faced Celeste, my voice sharp as steel. I ordered both her and Walter to leave immediately. She snarled threats about legal action and playing dirty, but I gestured firmly toward the exit. Walter emerged from the living room, coat in hand, his complexion drained of color. He'd clearly overheard everything. They collected their belongings and departed, the front door crashing behind them. I remained rooted, breathing heavily, with Juniper beside me. Though rage coursed through my veins, her gentle touch on my arm provided an anchor. Whatever secrets that drive contained would determine our next steps. The emptiness echoed through the house after their departure. Juniper and I remained in the kitchen, surrounded by evidence of the confrontation. Wine staining the tiles, broken glass catching the overhead lighting. After securing the front door twice, I retrieved my laptop from the office down the corridor. We drove to Dallas in relative silence, the city's distinctive skyline emerging before us, its sharp edges cutting against the darkness. My office at Hargrove Solutions, perched on the 10th floor of a gleaming downtown tower, had always been my sanctuary. Tonight, it became our fortress. The answers we sought lay within that USB. We settled into the quiet space, accompanied only by the steady drone of the building's ventilation. Juniper sat beside my desk, her usual sketching forgotten, her posture alert and watchful. I connected the drive to my laptop, and the screen illuminated. A folder appeared, simply marked Beatrice. A scanned note in my mother's distinctive handwriting greeted us. Her trembling script reached out like a message from beyond, revealing she'd known for years, watching as they corrupted her trust. She implored me to utilize her gathered evidence, to demolish their deceptions with truth. Delving deeper, I found photographs first, grainy surveillance images dated across 5 years. They showed Celeste and Walter in intimate moments at a Houston hotel lounge, her hand possessively on his arm, his smile unervingly familiar. Another captured them outside a San Antonio eatery, examining documents intently, her expression calculating and cold. My stomach twisted as I continued scrolling, each image landing like an unexpected blow. The audio files came next. Playing the first one, Walter's voice filled the room, discussing an Austin contact capable of fabricating medical records to question my sanity. Celeste's voice joined in, methodically suggesting ways to gradually increase pressure until I broke. Their shared laughter pierced the air, a sound that cut deep into my core. Juniper gasped softly beside me. I paused the recording, glancing at her ashen face. She gestured for me to continue, though her hands trembled slightly. The next folder revealed extensive financial documentation, spreadsheets filled with meticulously recorded transactions. Walter had systematically drained money from Beatrice's investment portfolios, extracting small amounts across decades, concealing them within unfamiliar shell corporations. The theft had begun before my birth, a calculated drain she discovered but chose not to stop. Her accompanying memo explained everything. She kept him close to contain the damage, to protect me from the inevitable chaos. Her maternal devotion permeated every word, displaying a quiet resilience I'd never fully appreciated until this moment. The last file carried the most weight, a video recording spanning 10 minutes. Beatrice appeared on screen in her hospital room, oxygen tubes visible around her face, her eyes blazing with determination despite her weakened state. She addressed the camera with a hoarse but unwavering voice. She revealed hiring a private investigator 2 years earlier, unraveling everything when Celeste made a crucial mistake during an overheard conversation. She cautioned me about their intentions to destroy me, to strip away everything I'd accomplished. Then her expression softened, her gaze seeming to reach through time itself. She urged me to avoid letting rage consume me, to utilize this evidence strategically rather than destructively. The truth, she emphasized, would unravel their entire scheme if handled with precision. The video ended, leaving darkness. I leaned back, my hands unsteady, my mind reeling from these revelations. Juniper's hand found my arm, offering stability. She explained that Beatrice had made her swear to wait, to reveal this information only when circumstances demanded it. I studied the small USB drive, this tiny device containing such massive betrayal. My mother hadn't simply protected me, she'd equipped me for battle. Now, while Celeste and Walter believed they'd achieved victory, I possessed everything necessary to reverse their manipulation. Rest eluded me that night in my Dallas office. Juniper slept quietly on a nearby couch, her peaceful breathing contrasting with the city's distant pulse. At my desk, I replayed the USB's contents mentally, Beatrice's guidance illuminating my path through the turmoil. As dawn approached, my decision crystallized. Survival wasn't enough. I would systematically dismantle their empire, one calculated move at a time. I contacted my attorney, Carla Reyes, who'd previously handled Hargrove Solutions contracts. She arrived downtown by 8, her briefcase clicking open on my desk. I presented the drive, shared everything. She listened intently, nodded once, and assured me of her commitment. First came Walter. I dispatched the financial documentation to the Texas Department of Banking, sending encrypted evidence of his systematic theft spanning decades, laid bare in irrefutable detail. Their investigators acted swiftly, freezing his accounts by midday, every cent now trapped behind bureaucratic barriers. Through my thorough examination of Beatrice's files, I'd uncovered his Austin condo rental, cleverly hidden under one of her former holding companies. One fax to the property manager with ownership verification, and that afternoon, a sheriff's deputy affixed an eviction notice to his doorway. I imagined him standing there, luggage in hand, his arrogant composure crumbling as reality closed in. Celeste experienced the fallout next. Her upscale furniture business operated on credit lines I'd guaranteed years ago during more trusting times. I contacted the bank, withdrew my financial backing, and watched her carefully constructed business wobble. She'd cultivated a prestigious reputation among Dallas's elite, hosting elaborate brunches and charity events. I strategically shared select USB photos with 3 of her most influential clients, women who thrived on social dynamics and fierce loyalty. Within hours, her phone undoubtedly exploded with cancellations, her carefully crafted social network rapidly disintegrating. Driving past her store that evening, I observed her anxious pacing inside the dimly lit space, a for lease sign already displayed prominently. Their resistance proved futile but vocal. Carla informed me the following day about Walter's latest move, hiring a Houston attorney who made empty claims about coercion and document forgery. Celeste appeared at the Plano residence that evening, pounding desperately on the door, her voice piercing through the glass. She demanded possession of her belongings, issued legal threats, warned of consequences for crossing her. I remained silent on the opposite side, watching her composure dissolve. Carla's preemptive restraining order and Beatrice's ironclad evidence rendered their efforts meaningless. The attorney's bluster evaporated upon reviewing the bank records, with timestamps and signatures too precise to challenge. Celeste's threats dissolved into nothing as law enforcement arrived, removing her from my property. That week, I reclined in my office, contemplating the skyline I'd helped create. My designed bridges spanned the horizon, unwavering and permanent. Walter and Celeste had underestimated my foundation, fortified by Beatrice's foresight. Her files provided the leverage I needed, which I wielded like an architectural blueprint, each action calculated, each strike precise. Juniper entered one evening, her expression weary but resolute. She mentioned hearing Celeste's outburst from her room, questioning if resolution had arrived. I assured her it approached, though not quite yet. Satisfaction flowed through me, cold and sharp, despite an underlying hollow ache. While dismantling their deception, Something within me fractured too, a break I couldn't quite identify. A week after I'd orchestrated their downfall, Walter initiated contact. Carla forwarded his message, a brief request for a meeting at White Rock Lake, a serene location east of Dallas where fitness enthusiasts and waterfowl typically dominated the landscape. Driven by curiosity more than prudence, I agreed. Under the harsh afternoon sun, I parked near the waterfront, spotting his diminished figure on a bench, wrapped in a weather jacket. His appearance had deteriorated, face drawn, eyes hollow, with an unreadable expression. As I approached, he rose, hands buried deep in his pockets. He expressed his desire to explain himself. Arms crossed, I demanded brevity. He shifted restlessly, gravel crackling beneath his feet. He described how Beatrice had constrained him, controlling him through her wealth and restrictions. The affair with Celeste, he claimed, began as an escape for two individuals tired of living in other shadows. I interrupted his narrative, stating I'd heard enough deception from Celeste. He recoiled before leaning in, voice hushed. He confessed to their plot against me, but insisted the fabricated breakdown was Celeste's scheme. He merely acquiesced, too cowardly to oppose her. My bitter laugh scattered a nearby bird. I reminded him that cowardice didn't absolve treachery. Celeste made her move later that night, contacting me from an unfamiliar number. She insisted on meeting at an upscale Plano cafe, her former favorite for expensive coffee. I arrived anticipating confrontation. She occupied a corner booth, hair severely styled, with a leather portfolio before her. She pushed it toward me, manicured nails drumming its edge. Inside, she claimed, was evidence of my coercion of Beatrice regarding her will, supported by a nurse's bribed testimony. I examined the amateur forgery before meeting her gaze. She proposed I transfer her half the estate for her silence, threatening legal action. I revealed my phone, playing evidence Carla had obtained from Beatrice's investigator. The recording captured Celeste, weeks earlier, boasting to Walter about manipulating hospital personnel. Her confidence crumbled, replaced by visible fear. I informed her the USB contained additional damaging material, enough for fraud charges if she persisted. She gripped the table tensely, spitting accusations about my ruination of everything. I responded calmly, stating she'd accomplished that herself. I presented divorce papers offering minimal settlement, giving her the choice between signing or facing charges. She glowered before signing hastily, defeat etching new lines across her features. Walter's fate crystallized the following day. Carla informed me that the state had launched a criminal investigation into his embezzlement, triggered by my disclosure. He had exhausted all his options. That evening, I sat in my office, the urban symphony drifting through the window. The triumph felt sharp and definitive, yet it failed to fill the emptiness within. Juniper appeared in the doorway, her outline gentle against the frame. She mentioned overhearing the cafe confrontation from her car. I acknowledged with a nod, confirming its conclusion. Though relief washed over her features, a dull ache persisted in my chest where rage had once blazed. In the aftermath of the cafe encounter, weeks drifted by as reality settled unevenly. Walter retreated to San Antonio, 270 miles south of Dallas, seeking refuge in a dilapidated apartment complex marked by deteriorating walls and a stuttering neon sign. Carla's contact provided the intelligence. She revealed his recent liver failure diagnosis, a silent predator advancing rapidly. Celeste followed in his wake, exchanging her luxury footwear for modest alternatives, channeling her settlement funds into covering his housing costs. I monitored their descent from a distance, an impassive witness to their dissolution. Their empire, built on shifting sands, had crumbled at my hands. Yet the victory weighed heavily, like a boulder in my stomach. Juniper shared my unease. One evening, she sat opposite me at our Plano residence, her study materials spread but neglected, absently rolling a pencil between her fingers. Though her academic performance remained strong and her artistic skills had sharpened, fatigue shadowed her eyes. She lifted her gaze, speaking softly about Celeste's afternoon call. My dining paused mid-bite. She described her mother's desperate plea, voice cracking as she claimed her actions stemmed from feeling trapped in a suffocating existence. Juniper had listened silently before ending the call. She turned to me, brow furrowed, questioning whether Celeste had ever genuinely cared about our family. I abandoned my utensil, contemplating her profound query. I suggested that perhaps initially, before ambition corrupted everything, she had. Maybe she'd been more enamored with our potential than our reality. Juniper acknowledged this, drawing absently in her textbook, then revealed her thoughts about departing Texas. She'd explored Seattle's University of Washington, particularly their environmental engineering curriculum. She yearned for a new beginning, far from Plano's memories, 2,000 miles distant. I reclined, her suggestion igniting a subtle spark of hope amid the devastation. That night, I found myself on the back porch, enveloped by the oppressive summer heat, with crickets providing nature's symphony in the darkness. The scenes from earlier, Walter's downfall and Celeste's raw desperation, replayed endlessly in my thoughts. Victory was mine. I'd stripped away their pretenses, yet something deep within me ached. Juniper's exhausted expression, her subtle plea for escape, reflected a brokenness I couldn't repair. I dismantled their deceptions with surgical precision, echoing Beatrice's lessons about building connections. Yet standing there, gazing at the night sky, I questioned what irreparable damage I'd inflicted on us all. An emptiness grew within, resonating through a life that felt increasingly unfamiliar. Juniper's mention of Seattle persisted, taking root in my consciousness. For weeks later, over our morning meal, she approached the subject again, her tone measured but determined. She expressed a desire to see Walter one final time before his decline progressed further, before we left Texas permanently. I initially resisted, my stomach churning at the prospect of confronting him. But her silent appeal proved impossible to dismiss. That weekend found us on a highway to San Antonio, the endless flat expanse stretching before us, heat waves dancing above the road. The hospital, a weathered brick structure permeated with medicinal scents, stood at the city's periphery. I remained in the parking lot as Juniper disappeared through the entrance. She emerged 60 minutes later, her expression guarded, hands trembling slightly. She relayed Walter's request for my presence, his desperate plea for her to convince me. After a moment's hesitation, weighted by the gravity of the moment, I accompanied her inside beneath humming fluorescent lights. Walter lay diminished in his hospital bed, medical equipment surrounding him, his complexion sallow and fragile. He turned toward me as I entered, managing a weak smile. He confessed to knowing I would come, crediting Juniper's inherent kindness, unwilling to let him face death alone. His words emerged raspy and strained. He revealed Beatrice had always seen through his facade, keeping him close out of compassion and optimism for change. He acknowledged his failures toward her and me, though he implicated Celeste in his worst decisions. I remained stoic, arms folded, as he delivered his warning. He described how vengeance had consumed him long before illness struck, cautioning that I teetered on similar precipice. His gaze, though weakened, pierced mine with unsettling clarity, leaving me with an unshakable chill. Celeste materialized suddenly, gliding in with a styrofoam coffee cup, her disheveled hair framing her weary face. She froze upon seeing me, the air between us charged with unspoken tension. Walter cleared his throat, revealing she'd remained by his side from remorse rather than opportunism. She maintained her silence, placing the cup down while averting her eyes. Though I glimpsed exhaustion and something vulnerable in her demeanor, I chose to look away. I informed Walter my presence wasn't for his benefit, but solely for Juniper. He acknowledged this with a nod between labored breaths, remarking that Beatrice would have wished better for me. I departed, his words haunting my thoughts, stirring uncertainties I preferred to suppress. Walter passed quietly a week after our hospital encounter, his departure barely noticed. Carla delivered the news via text, mentioning Celeste had managed the minimal funeral arrangements before departing San Antonio. I remained emotionally detached until a package appeared at my Plano residence days afterward. It was from Celeste, a worn shoebox without any accompanying message. Within lay my collegiate blueprints, now yellowed with age, each bearing Walter's distinctive cramped notes, dates, and subtle praise in the margins. Beneath everything rested Beatrice's final letter, composed under dim hospital lighting. She explained her forgiveness of Walter wasn't for his sake, but to liberate me from bearing his transgressions. She encouraged me to resume creating, to abandon the weight of the past. Her words resonated as I prepared for relocation. Juniper advocated for Seattle, and I concurred, financing our move by selling Hargrove Solutions' Texas operations. We arrived in Washington that autumn, embracing the city's perpetual drizzle, so different from Texas's scorching climate. There I initiated Beatrice Green, a series of enduring urban parks featuring deeply anchored steel frameworks. Juniper began environmental engineering studies at the university, finding fulfillment that Plano never provided. During the groundbreaking ceremony, we stood together, our hands briefly touching as the crowd's murmur merged with Puget Sound's breeze. I felt an ancient tension finally release. Celeste made one final appearance through a Denver postcard in my mailbox. She'd relocated there, beginning anew with her sister, her message terse and anonymous. I dismissed it without ceremony, its significance diminished. Walter's death and Celeste's departure left permanent trust issues. Yet Beatrice's wisdom proved true. Even damaged foundations could endure with proper reinforcement. Their entangled web had cost me a wife, a father, and my former self. In exchange, I gained Juniper's steadfast presence and an opportunity for renewal. Though revenge had left me hollow, the act of building gradually restored my spirit, one structural element at a time. And so concludes this chapter of my story. Perhaps the resolution resonates differently than expected, maybe even catches you off guard. I'd appreciate hearing your thoughts in the comments below. If this narrative touched you, consider showing support through likes and subscribing for future stories. Until we meet again in another tale.